Let's get back to the fun stuff. Let's do some heavy load testing on these 3 batteries. So this little SMC pack has been kicking around in the corner of my shop for the last few videos for a while now, and it's about time we put it to the test. And what do I have that's comparable? Well, I have this 9,000 milliamp hour Zeee battery. It's rated at 100C, 14.8 volts, of course. This one's 8,600 milliamp hours, but it's rated at 250C. And then I also made up the closest equivalent out of the Lishen LTO cells that I have, and that's going to be this thing. This is actually 18 amp hours, so it's twice as much as this and a little bit more than twice as much as this. The C rating on this is 50C continuous and 100C burst. So let's see what these should be capable of in terms of C rating. Of course, C rating is a meaningless term, and I'm going to get into that in another video, but let's just ride with the meaningless term for the time being. This one's 250C. At 8.6 amp hours, so 250 times 8.6 is 2,150 amps. Supposedly that's what this can put out. But at what temperature? For how long? At what voltage drop? We don't know, that's why C rating is nonsense, but we're definitely going to come up with a true C rating standard. I'm not going to get into it here, but maybe in the next video we will. Alright, so anyway, so the Zeee pack is rated at 100C at 9 amp hours. So that's pretty simple. 100C times 9, 900 amps. Again, what temperature is that at? How long is it for? What would the voltage drop be? All those questions are unanswered by C ratings. Now these guys here at 18 amp hours times 50C, it's only 900 amps. Only. Well, we know we've seen over 1,000 out of these guys. We know these guys have some juice. All 3 packs are going to get measured, weighed. We're going to do the internal resistance measurement 2 different ways, and then we're going to try to pull 500 amps for 5 seconds and measure the voltage drop on each pack. Let's get started. Let's first measure and weigh these things. Drag this monster back in frame. All right, this guy is, say, 19 centimeters, 18 centimeters, 12 centimeters. 19 by 18 by 12. The SMC racing pack. That's about 10 centimeters by 8 by 5.5. 10 by 8 by 5.5. Zeee. About 17 by 5 by 4. So that means, volume-wise, the Lishen LTO pack is 19 by 18 by 12. 4,104 cubic centimeters. And the SMC pack is 10 by 8 by 5.5, 440 cubic centimeters. So a little bit more than 10 times smaller. And then the Zeee pack, it's the smallest of the bunch. All right, let's weigh them. Okay, first up will be the Lishen LTO, 823.5. So you multiply that by 6, 823.5 times 6. That means that pack weighs 4,941 grams. That's a heavy pack. Times 2.2. It's almost 11 pounds. That's kind of hefty. And by the way, I did I did double nut the cell to represent the weight of the aluminum bus bars. No jokes on the double nutting. I actually just made it worse. All right, SMC pack next. 876.9. And the Zeee pack, 761.2. One thing I always forget to do is to ask you all to like and subscribe. I am building a studio down in Texas where we can do this pretty much every day. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it'd be great to know that you all are with me. So please go ahead and click the subscribe button as well as the like button. And there is a Patreon page. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to help me pay for this stuff, because I do pay for the majority of these things that I test. All right, next order of business is going to be internal resistance measurements. I've been in contact with the guy who owns SMC, and he swears by using this meter for measuring internal resistance. And we're going to see both of these and compare their results with what we actually measure to see which one is more accurate. The owner of SMC swears by this meter, and my understanding is this somehow measures DC internal resistance. I'm not really clear on how it works, but it does give vastly different results than this one, which is the one more people use, and this measures it at, I believe, 1 kilohertz. So let's see what we get, and let's see what we should get. So let's start with the Zeee, since it's right in front of me. Let me get the right adaptacle. Plug that in here, plug this in here, and it says 16.755 volts. Now, all of these packs were fully charged 2 days ago, and they've been resting for 2 days. Why? That's just the way my schedule worked out, but hey, 2 days of rest. All right, so it says no balance lead, 900 milliamp hours, 16.755, 16.75-ish. It's bouncing around there with no balance lead. Let's plug this in. All right, it says it's at 98% state of charge. And there you go. 18.5 milliohms for the whole pack, 2.47 for cell 1, 2.59 cell 2, 2.90 cell 3, 2.84 cell 4. So those are in milliohms. So that's the Zeee pack. So how does the SMC racing pack compare on the same meter? We plug in its respective adaptacle. This one says 16.74 volts, 9,000 milliamp hours, no balance. Let's apply the balance. And this one says it's 97% state of charge. Everything's measuring roughly 4.18 or 19 volts per cell. Let's go ahead and take a look-see. Wow, okay. So the pack is rated at 9.3 milliohms, and the cells respectively are 0.68, 0.74, 0.68, 0.62. So a lot less than the Zeee pack. But what's interesting to me is these four don't add up to that. Maybe there's some resistance in the wires. I don't know. But no matter what, it's roughly half the internal resistance of the Zeee pack. Okay, since there's no balance leads, and I don't know if this thing is really programmed to work with LTO cells, we can't use this meter to test the Lishen pack. But we can use this meter. So let's move on to that meter. Now a more commonly available meter, but this meter you can actually get from SMC on their website. That's where I got this thing from. And we'll see which one is more accurate. Let's power this guy on. Okay. So this will give us a reading in the packs as a whole. Put this clippy clip in here. This one in here. And on this meter, we're getting 5.6 milliohms for the whole pack. The voltage reading is about the same. So that's a lot less. That's less than a third of what the other meter was showing us. Okay. SMC. We're getting 2.27 milliohms on the SMC pack. So what's interesting is both meters are showing us vastly different internal resistances for both of these packs, but the relative difference is about the same. This one has about half the internal resistance of this one. All right, the big old Lishens. Let's see what they tell us. 1.98, 1.97. Let's call it 1.98. And of course, the Lishen pack has lower voltage because there is no good combination of cells that translates exactly to the fully charged voltage of lithium polymer cells, which is 4.2 volts for cells. These are charged up to about 2.6 volts per cell, just the way it works. If I added another cell, then we'd be over voltage. Or these things would be like at a 40% state of charge, so it wouldn't really be comparable. So I did the closest I could, and it's within a volt. I figured close enough, especially with that kind of internal resistance. By the way, I'll put links to this meter in the description below, as well as the other one too, by the way, if you want to get one or the other. We'll see which one is the closest. All right, before I move on to the craziness of the high power testing, let's see what each meter says each pack should do at 500 amps. Let's calculate what the voltage drop is. First, let's start with the Zeee pack on the DC meter from SMC Racing. So it measured 18.5 milliohms. So at 500 amps times 0.0185, that gives us a voltage drop of 9.25 volts. That's a lot of volts. 9.25 volts. Let's go ahead and put that in memory. What do we say? 16.75 minus recall memory. So that means this thing's only going to be kicking out 7.5 volts using SMC Racing's meter. So the other meter that measures the internal resistance using a 1 kilohertz AC frequency came up with 5.6 milliohms for the exact same pack. Let's see what its voltage should be under 500 amps. So first, let's clear the memory from before. And we got 500 amps times 0.0056 milliohms equals a voltage drop of 2.8. Let's put that in memory. Clear 16.75 is our starting voltage. Minus a recall memory of 2.8 gives us 13.95. That's a huge difference. That's a lot more than 7.5 volts. Let's see which meter is closer on the Zeee pack when we do the load test. Let's see how the SMC pack should do in theory. So using the SMC Racing DC ESR meter, we came up with 9.3 milliohms. So let's clear our memory first. So 500 amps times 0.0093 gives us a voltage drop of 4.65, which means, let's put that in memory, clear it out, 16.75 minus recall memory gives us 12.1 volts. So that's pretty good, actually. If this thing holds 12.1 volts at 500 amps, I'll be very impressed. And then if we do the same calculation, but using the internal ESR measured by the AC meter, which was 2.27 milliohms. Let's clear our memory first, and then we'll do 500 times 0.00227. That's a voltage drop of 1.135. Let's put that in memory. All right, and then take 16.75, subtract recall memory. So that means under 500 amps using the AC meter, that this thing's only going to drop to 15.615 volts. I kind of doubt it. I think that's too optimistic. I think maybe the SMC Racing meter may be more accurate, but we'll find out for sure. And then finally, the giant Lishen pack. That thing came in at 1.98 milliohms. So let's go ahead and clear the memory now. 500 times 0.00198 is a voltage drop of 0.99, basically 1 volt. And what were we at, like 15.7-ish or so? So basically, that's telling me this thing should drop down to about 14.7. I think that's a little bit optimistic at 500 amps. But enough with all these numbers. Let's do some heavy load testing. Since we're set up for the EC5 connector on the Zeee first, let's start there. Let me connect the voltage probes. Now, where I'm measuring the voltage is right on the other side of the battery connector because, frankly, that's what we care about, right? That's how you're going to use it. All right, so we're just going to connect our little clips here. Polarity is not all that important on a load tester, but the meter will go backwards if we don't pay attention. All right, so we are all connected. We're all ready to go. This is telling us 16.8 volts on the voltmeter. Let's get to 500 amps and hold for 5 seconds, and let's see what we end up with. One, two, 3, 4, 5. 9.98 is what I saw. And how does that compare with what we predicted? Well, the DC meter thought it should show 7.5 volts. It didn't go that low, but the AC meter predicted 13.95. It went lower than that. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. Ooh, and this is hot. Yeah, that's toasty. You can see the voltage is rebounding a bit. Let's see. Ooh, that is very, very, very hot. Let's disconnect this if I can. It's too hot to touch. Okay, I don't want to do this, but everything is so freaking hot. Ow. Yeah, that's 5 seconds of load test. Way to melt the connectors. Okay, ouch. Hot. Hot. All right, let's put the 8mm bullets on here. So we can do, God, that is freaking smoking hot. I actually had to put the connectors on the SMC pack, and I was not going to do an EC5 connector. And now I'm very glad I didn't. Hot. Hot nuts. Hot washer. Okie dokie. Here are the cables I made for this. Just out of curiosity, how hot is our stack? Yeah, barely warm. I'm gonna go get me some goggles though. Because nothing hugely terrifying happened, it's very easy to forget that we just pulled 5,000 watts with the weakest battery here. So, at least safety glasses. SMC, your time has come. Impress me. All right, are we ready? We're starting at 16.79 volts. It's going to be 500 amps, 5 seconds. See what the voltage drop is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 13.9 volts. Yeah, these cables are quite hot too. So 13.9. That's a lot better than the Zeee. That's basically less than 3 volts drop. That's pretty good. All right, 1 pack left, and it's by far the biggest. These are not anywhere near as hot as those are. Yeah, these things are now only warm. The EC5 was downright smoking hot. These get their own little cables that I've made a while ago, because, well, that's what I had. Our carbon pile's getting a wee bit warm. Let's see what the massive Lishens have to say about this. Will they laugh at our efforts? 15.8 volts. I can keep my hand on the carbon pile, but it is starting to get a bit warm. Well, you know what they say. No time like the present. Let's do it. 15.8 is our starting voltage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 13.5 volts. A nice smell burning things. All right, let's see what got hot. Battery's not even close. Cable's warm. That's warm. I bet this is hot. Yeah, that's kind of hot. I can still put my hand on it without instantly burning myself, but couldn't keep my hand on that. So there you go. So the first question has to be, which ESR meter should you buy? Well, the answer is, honestly, neither one. Error-wise, for the Zeee pack, the SMC meter missed by 2.5 volts, and this meter missed by 4 volts. That's pretty far off. And on the SMC pack, the SMC meter missed by 1.8 volts, and the AC meter missed by 1.7 volts. Meaning the results are somewhere in the middle. Honestly, a load tester and a voltmeter are your best bet. That will tell you exactly what the performance would be under load. Now, as far as the actual load test on the batteries, well, to the surprise of absolutely no one, the SMC pack absolutely crushed the Zeee pack. The Zeee pack saw a voltage drop of like 40%. The SMC pack saw a voltage drop under 500 amps of about 17%. However, the Lishens, these LTO cells, only saw a voltage drop of 6% under a 500 amp load. That's pretty impressive. Now, you do have to remember that these have roughly twice the capacity of either one of these in terms of amp hours. They are also, each one of these cells weighs about as much as this pack does and more than this pack does. So it is, 6 times heavier. And it's also quite a bit larger physically. So there are those issues. Now, on the bright side for LTO packs, 1, they didn't even get warm. 2, they don't catch fire. 3, they last 10 times longer in terms of charge-discharge cycles than regular LiPos. So there are a lot of pros for the LTOs. But the downsides are, again, size, and actually, I kind of left this out of the equation, but cost. Those are pretty expensive, but they work quite well. So I hope you found this video interesting and helpful, and please go ahead and subscribe and click the like button, and I will catch you all in the next one. What happens if I connect all of these together? Like, no, I'm not doing that. What would happen if you did that? Well, you'd short both packs pretty much instantly, I think. I want to know, but I don't want to try it because I know it's not going to be good. It can't possibly be good. I do want to try it though. I do. No, not doing it. Not doing it. So close. Touch and die. Touch and die. I don't know. I'm losing my mind over here.